The sirens are screaming. They cut through the humid summer air like a knife. Inside the ambulance, paramedics are fighting a desperate battle. Lying on the stretcher is a man who looks less like a human being and more like a swollen, broken tragedy. He is obese. He is sweating profusely. He is foaming at the mouth. His heart is beating at a terrifying rhythm, struggling to pump blood through veins clogged with years of excess. The doctors at the Cantegral Sanatorium check his vitals. They are horrified. His heart is functioning at only 38% capacity. His blood is a toxic cocktail of champagne, pizza, sedatives, and a lethal amount of cocaine. He is entering a coma. He is dying. Outside the hospital, the world holds its breath. News crews from every continent are setting up satellite trucks. They are preparing the obituaries. They are ready to announce the death of the greatest footballer who ever lived. But inside that hospital room, stripped of the jersey, stripped of the captain's armband, stripped of the magic, he is just a scared 39-year-old man who lost his way. Look at him. This is the man who single-handedly defeated the English Empire with a soccer ball. This is the man who brought joy to the poorest slums of Italy. How did he end up here? Alone, bankrupt of spirit, fighting for one more breath in a sterile white room. They called him D10's God, but on this night, God was overdosing. To understand this tragedy, we must understand the fracture in his soul. There was never just one man. There were always two. There was Diego. Diego was the kid from Villa Fiorito, a slum made of tin and cardboard in Buenos Aires. Diego was humble. He was sweet. He loved his mother, Toda, more than life itself. Diego just wanted to play ball in the mud and buy a house for his parents so they wouldn't have to starve. And then, there was Maradona. Maradona was the invention, the character, the industry. Maradona was the avenger, the drug addict, the womanizer, the friend of the Mafia. Maradona was the armor Diego put on to face a world that wanted to eat him alive. Diego would ask for a hug. Maradona would ask for cocaine. The tragedy of his life is simple and heartbreaking. The world loved the player, but they forgot the person. We demanded miracles from him every Sunday, and when he gave us miracles, we turned our backs when he showed us his pain. He famously said, "I am black or white. I will never be gray." He lived his life at the extremes. He touched the sky with his hands, but his feet were always burning in hell. We often ask, why did he throw it all away? But in the next hour, we are going to ask a different question. How did he survive as long as he did? We are going to explore the terrifying machinery of idolatry. What happens to a human psyche when millions of people literally pray to you? When the Mafia controls your life. When the media hunts you like a wild animal. We will argue that Diego Maradona didn't die of heart failure. He died of suffocation. He was suffocated by the love, the hate, and the impossible expectations of an entire planet. We will walk through the narrow streets of Naples, where he was a king held hostage. We will sit in the locker room of the 1986 World Cup, and we will stand in the dark corners of the nightclubs where the demons whispered to him. This is not a story about football tactics. This is a story about a man who was given the world, but lost his soul in the transaction. Hello, storytellers. Welcome back. Imagine a city in the 1,980 seconds. Naples, Italy. It was the poorest, most dangerous, most despised city in Europe. The rest of Italy spat on them. They called them the sewer of the South. They had nothing, no hope, no pride. And then a short, curly-haired boy from Argentina arrived. He didn't just bring them goals. He brought them dignity. He went to war for them, against the rich North. He made the poor feel like kings. For 7 years, Diego Maradona was the beating heart of the world. He did things with a ball that physics couldn't explain. He was a magician, but every magic trick has a price, and Diego paid the highest price of all. Today, we are looking past the hand of God. We are looking into the eyes of the man who carried a cross too heavy for any mortal. From the mud of Villa Fiorito to the cocaine-fueled nights of Napoli, this is the story of the God versus the devil. Let's begin. To understand the miracle, you must first smell the mud. Villa Fiorito. The name sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Little flower city. But in 1960, there were no flowers there. There was no running water. There was no electricity. There were no paved roads. It was a shanty town on the outskirts of Buenos Aires, a place where the city dumped its trash and its people. The houses were made of scrap metal, cardboard, and hope. When it rained, the floor turned to sludge. When the sun shined, the smell of the open sewers was enough to make you faint. This is where Diego Armando Maradona was born, the 5th child, but the first son. His father, Don Diego, was a factory worker who broke his back every day to put bread on the table. He was a silent, stoic man, but the center of Diego's universe was his mother, Doña Tota. There is a story Diego told until the day he died. It is the key to his entire psychology. At dinner time, in that tiny, cramped shack, there was never enough food for 8 people. Never. So, every night, when the plate came around to Doña Tota, she would clutch her stomach. She would grimace in pain. "I have a stomach ache," she would say. "I cannot eat tonight." She would push her plate to Diego and his sisters. Little Diego believed her. He ate her portion. He grew strong on her sacrifice. It wasn't until years later that he realized the truth. She wasn't sick. She was starving. She was starving so he could live. That realization planted a nuclear reactor in his chest. He didn't just want to play football to have fun. He needed to play football to buy his mother a house where she would never have to fake a stomach ache again. He wasn't playing a game. He was fighting a war against poverty, and his weapon was a ball made of old rags and leather. In Argentina, they have a word, potrero. It means an empty lot, a patch of dirt full of rocks, glass, and holes. This was Diego's university. You cannot learn to play like Maradona in a fancy academy with green grass. On green grass, the ball rolls true. It is predictable. In the potrero, the ball is alive. It hits a rock and bounces left. It hits a hole and stops dead. To survive in the potrero, you have to be smarter than the ground. You have to be faster than the older boys who want to kick your legs. You have to use your elbows, your hips, your low center of gravity. Diego was small. He was tiny, but he was built like a tank. By the time he was 9 years old, he was doing things with an orange, a crumpled newspaper, or a bottle cap that grown men couldn't do with a football. He walked to school juggling an orange on his foot, never letting it touch the dust. The neighbors would stop and watch. It was hypnotic. It was as if the object was tied to his shoelace by an invisible string. He joined a youth team called Los Cebolitas, the Little Onions. Why onions? Maybe because they made grown men cry. This team of poverty-stricken kids went on a winning streak that defied logic. 136 games undefeated. 136. They traveled across Argentina. They humiliated rich teams from the city. And leading them was the tiny captain with the mop of black hair, who played with a joy that was almost frightening. But the world wasn't ready to believe. They looked at his size, his clothes, his background, and they doubted. They needed to see it to believe it. And that brings us to the day everything changed. This is the scene, the moment the spark became a fire. It is a gloomy afternoon in Buenos Aires. 1969. Diego is 9 years old. His best friend, Goyo Carrizo, has convinced the coach of the Argentinos Juniors Youth Academy, Francis Cornejo, to take a look at this kid from Fiorito. Francis Cornejo is a legend. He has seen thousands of kids. He is skeptical. He hates wasting time. The rain has turned the pitch into a swamp. Most kids would struggle to even stand up, let alone play. Diego arrives. He is wearing a shirt that is too big for him and shorts that are frayed at the edges. He looks malnourished. He looks like a gust of wind could blow him over. Cornejo sighs. He tells the kid, "Okay, show me what you can do." Someone throws a ball high into the air. Diego doesn't wait for it to land. He catches it on his left foot. Whatever physics usually applies to a falling object stops. The ball dies instantly on his toe. He flicks it to his knee, then to his shoulder, then to his head. Bam, bam, bam. The ball doesn't touch the mud. Cornejo's eyes widen. He thinks it's a fluke. Play. He barks. Diego enters the scrimmage. Imagine a shark swimming in a pool of minnows. He doesn't run. He glides over the mud. He takes on one defender. A nutmeg. He takes on two. A feint. He takes on the goalkeeper. a gentle chip. He isn't looking at the ball. He is looking at the horizon. Cornejo stops the practice. He walks onto the field. He grabs Diego by the arm. He is not smiling. He looks terrified. "Stop," Cornejo says. "Come with me." He marches Diego to the sidelines where his father is standing. Cornejo pulls out a flashlight. Even though it is daytime, he demands to see Diego's ID card. "Don Diego?" the coach asks, his voice shaking. "Tell me the truth. Is this boy a midget? Is he a dwarf?" The father is confused. "No, sir. He is my son. He cannot be 9 years old," Cornejo insists. "No 9-year-old on earth plays like this. You are lying to me. He must be 18. Don Diego shows the birth certificate. 1960. Cornejo looks at the paper. He looks at the boy. He realizes he is holding a winning lottery ticket. He looks at Diego and says, almost whispering, "You are going to play for us. But you have to promise me one thing." "What?" Little Diego asks. "Promise me you will never stop playing like you are in the dirt." That day, Diego didn't just make the team. He became the hope of an entire club. But more importantly, he learned that his talent was his passport. It was the only thing that made powerful men tremble. Let's stop the tape. We need to analyze this. What made Diego different? It wasn't just genetics. The lesson here is street smarts over system. In modern football, we teach kids to be robots. Pass here. Move there. Follow the system. Diego learned in the potrero. In the slums, there is no system. There is only survival. He learned that if you follow the rules, you starve. If you break the rules, you eat. His low center of gravity wasn't just physical, it was psychological. He was grounded. He was connected to the earth in a way that taller, richer players were not. The deception, the trickery, the hand of God that would come later. It was all born here. To Diego, cheating a little bit wasn't a sin. It was a necessary tool for the weak to defeat the strong. It was how you leveled the playing field against a world that was rigged against you. He realized early on that the world loves a rebel, as long as the rebel wins. He had the hunger. He had the skills. But as he rose from the slums to the stadiums, he was about to discover that hunger changes. When you are no longer hungry for food, you become hungry for something much more dangerous: adoration. And that hunger would lead him to a city that was just as broken, just as passionate, and just as dangerous as he was. Naples was waiting, and the devil was waiting with it. Let's talk about Naples in 1984. It wasn't just a city. It was a powder keg. It was the poorest city in Italy, ravaged by earthquakes, cholera, and a brutal war between Mafia clans. The rich north called Neapolitans Africa, They held banners in stadiums that said, "Vesuvius, wash them with fire. Naples needed a savior." And they bought one for a world record fee. When Diego Maradona arrived at the San Paulo Stadium, 85,000 people were there just to watch him juggle a ball. They didn't see a footballer. They saw a revolutionary leader. They saw someone who was short, dark, and discriminated against. Just like them, Diego looked at the chaos in the stands and felt something he hadn't felt since the slums of Villa Fiorito home. For the next 3 years, he performed miracles. He dragged a mediocre team to the top of the world. In 1986, he went to Mexico and committed the greatest theft and the greatest masterpiece in the history of sports within 4 minutes of each other. The hand of God and the goal of the century. He defeated England, the country that had humiliated Argentina in the Falklands War. He didn't just win the match. He restored the honor of a nation. Then, in 1987, he did the impossible. He won the Scudetto for Napoli. The city went insane. They held mock funerals for Juventus and Milan. They wrote on the walls of the cemeteries, "You guys don't know what you missed." Diego wasn't a man anymore. He was a deity. People put his picture next to Jesus in their living rooms. They stole a vial of his blood from a hospital and put it in a shrine. But here is the danger of being a god. Gods are not allowed to be human. Gods are not allowed to be sad. Gods are not allowed to rest. Diego couldn't walk down the street. He couldn't go to the supermarket. He couldn't open a window without 100 people screaming his name. He was the king of Naples, but he was also its prisoner. The golden cage was locked, and inside that cage, Diego was suffocating. He needed an escape. He needed a way to numb the pressure. And the Camorra, the Neapolitan Mafia, was happy to provide the key. Enter the Giuliano clan, the most powerful crime family in Naples. They saw Diego not as a hero, but as an asset, a trophy. They approached him with a smile. "Diego," they said, "whatever you need, we have it. Protection, women, cars, or maybe something to help you relax." Diego discovered cocaine. At first, it was a party drug. Then, it became a medicine. He described his schedule. "I played the game on Sunday. I went out and partied from Sunday night until Wednesday. Cocaine, whiskey, no sleep. Then, on Wednesday morning, I started sweating it out to be ready for Sunday." He lived a double life. By day, he was training on the pitch. By night, he was in the shadowy back rooms of the Mafia, surrounded by hitmen and dealers. The Mafia gave him the drug. In exchange, they owned him. They took photos with him. They paraded him around. Having Maradona at your party was the ultimate symbol of power. Diego thought he was using them, but they were using him. He was dancing on the edge of a razor blade. As long as he won, the city looked the other way. The police looked the other way. The drug tests mysteriously disappeared. He was protected. He was untouchable. until the summer of 1990%. The summer the love turned to hate. The World Cup 1990, held in Italy. Fate, with its cruel sense of humor, dictated that the semi-final would be Argentina versus Italy. And where was it played? In Naples, in Diego's living room. Before the match, Diego made a mistake, a fatal mistake born of arrogance. He asked the people of Naples to support Argentina instead of Italy. He said, "The rest of Italy hates you. I love you. Root for me." It was a test of loyalty, and it tore the city apart. On the night of the match, Diego scored the winning penalty. He eliminated Italy from their own World Cup. The stadium went silent. The country went silent. The next day, the headlines changed. He was no longer the god. He was the devil. He was the traitor. According to polls, he became the most hated man in Italy. And when the love stopped, the protection stopped. The politicians, the police, the judges, they all decided it was time to collect the debt. Wiretaps were authorized. The investigation began. The safety net was pulled away, and Diego was left hanging over the abyss. This is the moment the god fell to earth. It is the morning of April 26, 1991, Buenos Aires. Diego has fled Italy in shame after a failed drug test. He is hiding in an apartment in the Caballito neighborhood. He is not the athlete who lifted the World Cup. He is bloated. He hasn't shaved in days. The curtains are drawn. The air smells of stale smoke. He is sitting on the bed, staring at a mirror that reflects a stranger. He is waiting for a phone call from a dealer, but the phone doesn't ring. Instead, there is a heavy pounding on the door. Police. Open up. Imagine the shock. For 10 years, no one dared to touch him. He was Diego. He was above the law. But the door crashes open. Narcotics officers flood the room. They find him huddled in the corner, confused, terrified. They find 0.5 kilogram of cocaine in the apartment. They don't treat him like a legend. They treat him like a junkie. They handcuff him. Now, visualize this scene. It is burned into the memory of every Argentine. The police lead him out of the building. It is the middle of the day. Thousands of people have gathered. The cameras are flashing, blinding, relentless flashes. Diego is wearing jeans and a windbreaker. His head is bowed. He is crying. Not the tears of a loser in a final. These are the tears of a broken man. 2 officers push him into the back of a police car. He looks out the window, his eyes red and swollen. In that moment, he realized the terrifying truth. The party was over. The friends were gone. The Mafia was gone. The entourage had vanished. He was completely, utterly alone. The man who could dribble past 6 English players couldn't dribble past his own demons. He wasn't D10S anymore. He was just inmate number 142. Let's stop the car. Let's sit in the silence of that cell. Why did Diego Maradona fall so hard? We can blame the drugs. We can blame the Mafia. But the deeper lesson here is about the prison of validation. Diego Maradona spent his entire life trying to fill a hole in his soul that was created in the slums of Villa Fiorito. He thought that if he could just get enough applause, enough love, enough money, the hole would disappear. But the human soul is not designed to be worshipped. When you become an idol, you stop developing as a human. You remain a child. Diego was a child trapped in a king's body. He never learned to say no to pleasure because he had spent his childhood hearing no to survival. He fell because he believed the lie. He believed he was the character he created. He thought Maradona could handle the drugs, but Diego's heart couldn't. He realized in that jail cell that the world loved his feet, but they didn't care about his mind. He was a gladiator. As long as he killed the lion, the emperor clapped. But the moment the gladiator started bleeding, the emperor sent him to the dungeon. The lesson for us is brutal. Success does not cure trauma. It magnifies it. If you are unhappy and poor, money won't make you happy. It will just make your unhappiness expensive. Diego had conquered the world, but he had lost the war for himself. And the saddest part, he would try to come back again and again, like a moth addicted to the flame that burns it. They say a cat has 9 lives. Diego Maradona had 1,000. After the arrest, after the shame, after the coma, in 2000, he didn't die. He did what he always did on the pitch. He dribbled past the Reaper. But the man who came back was different. By 2004, he weighed nearly 300 pounds. He could barely breathe. He was a caricature of himself, a swollen giant trapped in a cloud of cigar smoke and denial. The world laughed at him. The press called him Fat Diego. But Diego had one more miracle left in his pocket. He underwent gastric bypass surgery. He went to rehab in Cuba. And in 2005, he walked onto a television stage looking like a movie star. Slim, sharp, smiling. He hosted La Noche del 10, the night of the number 10. It was a moment of surreal redemption. He interviewed Mike Tyson. He interviewed Fidel Castro. He played headers with Pelé. For a brief moment, it seemed like he had found peace. The devil was asleep, and Diego was finally driving the car. He even became the coach of the Argentina national team in 2010. Imagine the scene. Lionel Messi, the new genius, on the pitch, and on the sidelines, Diego in a gray suit, screaming, hugging, living every pass as if he were still playing. They didn't win the World Cup. They were crushed by Germany. But seeing him there, defending his players like a father protecting his cubs, we realized something important. His football brain might have been outdated, but his heart was still the biggest engine in the stadium. However, gravity always wins. The body that had been abused for 30 years began to send the invoice. The knees crumbled. The speech slurred. The demons whispered again. But before the final whistle, Diego needed to go home. Not to a palace, but to the smell of the grass. This is the final act, the most beautiful and heartbreaking chapter of the story. The year is 2019. Diego is 58 years old. He is broken physically. He needs surgery on his knees and shoulders. He walks with a severe limp, sometimes needing assistance just to stand up. He could have retired to a beach in Dubai. He could have hidden in his mansion, but he couldn't stay away. The addiction to the roar of the crowd was stronger than the pain. He accepts a job as the manager of Gimnasia y Esgrima La Plata. It is a small, struggling club in Argentina, fighting against relegation. It is the bottom of the barrel. Why go there? Because they needed him, and he needed to be needed. What happened next was not a football season. It was a religious pilgrimage. Every stadium Gimnasia visited turned into a cathedral. When Diego walked or hobbled out of the tunnel, the opposing fans didn't boo. They stood up. They cried. They chanted, "Ole, ole, ole, Diego, Diego." It didn't matter if his team lost. It didn't matter that he could barely coach. The people of Argentina knew this was the farewell tour. And then, the opposing club started doing something unprecedented. Knowing that Diego's knees caused him agony if he stood for too long, and that the standard dugout benches were uncomfortable, they brought him a throne. Literally, a giant leather armchair. Some were painted in club colors. Some looked like royal seats. They placed it right on the sideline. Imagine this image: a crippled king sitting on a throne in the middle of a muddy pitch, watching a game played by boys who weren't even born when he won the World Cup. He sat there, often sedated to manage the pain, waving to the crowd like the Pope. At Newell's Old Boys, the club where he played briefly, they gave him a throne and he signed it. He looked at the crowd, tears streaming down his swollen face, and said, "I have returned to my heart." He wasn't winning trophies. He was collecting love. He was saying goodbye to the only place that never judged him, the football field. It was a tragic sight, yes, but it was also majestic. He died as he lived, center stage, surrounded by his people, worshipped not for his perfection, but for his presence. November 25, 2020. The news hit the world like a lightning strike. Diego is dead. He died in a rented house in Tigray, recovering from brain surgery. He died alone in a room, while the world outside argued about his doctors and his inheritance. Argentina declared 3 days of national mourning, but 3 days were not enough. 1 million people lined up at the presidential palace to touch his coffin. They climbed the fences. They fought the police. They threw jerseys, flowers, and rosaries. It wasn't a funeral. It was chaos. It was passion. It was Argentina. It was the only fitting send-off for the man who was chaos incarnate. Naples lit up the night sky with so many flares that the city looked like it was on fire. They renamed their stadium Stadio Diego Armando Maradona before his body was even cold. The king had left the building. So, What is the legacy of Diego Armando Maradona? Statisticians will talk about the goals. Moralists will talk about the drugs, but they are missing the point. Diego's legacy is about authenticity. In a world of polished, PR-trained athletes who speak in cliches and hide behind brands, Diego was raw. He was naked. He never apologized for who he was. He famously said, "I made mistakes, and I paid for them. But the ball is never stained." He taught us that you can be a god and a sinner in the same lifetime. He showed us that perfection is boring. We respected Pelé. We admired Messi. But we loved Maradona. Why? Because he was us. He was the part of us that dreams of glory, and he was the part of us that struggles with temptation. He was the underdog who punched the giant in the face and laughed. The lesson he leaves behind is this: passion is the only currency that matters. He didn't play with his feet. He played with his guts. He lived 60 years in a way that most people couldn't live in 600. He burned the candle at both ends and in the middle, just to see the light. He was dirty. He was flawed. He was broken. And he was the most beautiful thing we ever saw on a football pitch. The God is dead. Long live the God. So, as the flares fade in Naples and the flags are lowered in Buenos Aires, what are we left with? We have witnessed the life of a man who was too big for the world, yet too small for his own emotions. We started with the flower in the mud, the boy from Villa Fiorito who taught us the power of street smarts. He showed us that when the system is rigged against you, you don't follow the rules, you rewrite them. He proved that hunger is the greatest coach, and that a ball can be a weapon of mass liberation. We walked with him through the golden cage of Naples, where he fell into the prison of validation. We saw the tragic cost of being a god. He taught us that success does not heal trauma. It only amplifies it. He showed us that you can conquer the world, but if you sell your soul to the devil for protection, eventually the devil comes to collect. And finally, we saw the broken throne, the legacy of an imperfect God. He taught us that authenticity is the only currency that lasts forever. He never hid his scars. He never hid his sins. He showed us that it is better to be a flawed human being who lives with passion than a perfect statue that feels nothing. Diego Maradona was not a role model for how to live, but he was the ultimate example of what it means to be alive. My friends, looking at the chaos and the glory of Diego, I want to leave you with one thought. We live in a world that demands perfection. We are told to hide our weaknesses, to filter our lives, to be clean. Diego screams at us from the grave, don't be perfect, be real. You will make mistakes. You might fall. You might even lose your way. But do not let the world tame you. Find your ball, whatever that passion is, and hold on to it tight. It is the one thing that will never judge you. It is the one thing that will never be stained. Live your life with so much intensity that when the final whistle blows, you are completely empty, having left everything on the field. Do not die with the music still inside you. Now, I want to hear from you. The debate will last forever. Pelé or Maradona? Messi or Maradona? But I want to ask something deeper. Do you think Diego was a victim of his own fame? Or was he the architect of his own destruction? Tell me your verdict in the comments below. Let's turn this comment section into a tribute to the beautiful game. I read every single one. If this journey through the glory and the mud touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep these legends alive. And if you enjoyed this story about a fighter who conquered the world but battled his own demons, you absolutely must watch our documentary on Mike Tyson, The Beast versus the Peace. It is the perfect brother story to Maradona, a man who rose from the streets, became the baddest man on planet, and had to lose everything to find himself. Click right here to watch it now. Thank you for spending your time with us. I'm Peter. The ball does not stain. Adios.